If you're sick and tired of seeing support for the avoidant on social media, take a walk with me. I can understand why you might feel that way, especially if you have an anxious attachment style. It's important to remember that the anxious attacher is also an avoidant. Whether a relationship is good or bad for the anxious attacher, they will do everything in their power to avoid being rejected or abandoned within that relationship. And this is why it's so important to understand what your goals, values, and standards are for a relationship with you. Within all of that, you will find your boundaries. And this is where it gets tricky because your job is to cultivate the self-awareness around those things and then learn to stand firm within your boundaries when challenged. And when you have an insecure attachment style, you'll realize these were skills that were not taught to you, nor were they developed when you were younger. And I want to remind you, if you don't have a secure attachment style, then you have an insecure attachment style and some work to do. It's time to pick up books like Attached by Amir Levine and The Power of Attachment by Diane Heller. And while you're at it, get the book Anxiously Attached by Jessica Baum and check out episode 22 of the Blueprint podcast linked in my bio. You see, the anxious and the avoidant are actually two ends of the same stick. It's why when they come into relationship with each other, it feels so familiar for each one of them. And that's because it's what you grew up with, this runner-chaser dynamic. It's also why it's called the anxious and avoidant trap. You get stuck in this loop of familiarity. The anxious attacher always seeking validation, love, and respect, making the other person responsible for all their thoughts, feelings, and emotions. And when the anxious attacher is emotionally activated, they will push for clarity and security. And what's often not talked about or recognized is that what's going on in this moment is actually emotionally overwhelming the avoidant. They've gone past their threshold for intimacy and beyond their emotional capacity for connection. And this is where this type of relationship begins to fall apart. So what's the solution? The anxious attacher needs to learn more self-regulation skills. That can look like going for a walk, breath work, mindfulness, and meditation. The avoidant needs to learn co-regulation and practice intimacy drills with their partner. A lot of times, the anxious attacher will put the responsibility on the avoidant to change. But what you have to understand is that each partner plays a role in this dynamic. And when you constantly send memes, videos, and book recommendations to the avoidant, you're actually just pushing them away. Unless you've already had a conversation about personal development and self-education, they're going to take this as you're telling them that they aren't good enough for you, that they need to be fixed, that they're broken. When the reality is, if you want to heal within the context of a relationship, it takes two willing partners. You both have to do the work, and you both have to show up with a different type of energy. And if only one person is willing to put in the work and the effort, then you have to ask yourself, is this the type of relationship that you want to be in for the next 50 years? Can you love them as they are, recognizing that they don't have the same emotional capacity that you do? Remember, it's not your job to fix or change people just so you can like them. And what it all goes back to is, are you honoring your goals, values, standards, and boundaries? If this video resonated with you, then it's time to sign up for the 21-day self-love challenge. Link is in my bio, and we start October 1st.